Just one more hour until reinforcements, aka me, arrive to save the day. But until then, keep your eyes on the highway and keep on trucking with Jimmy Mack on Road Gang Radio, y'all.
There's a lot of talk about who's going to be the MVP of the American League. Will it, in fact, be Aaron Judge, or will the catcher from Seattle, in fact, carry the day? We got a different kind of MVP on the show this morning. By the way, he's a former Green Beret. He's a former NFL player. He turned filmmaker. He did 3 combat tours with the Special Forces to Iraq and Afghanistan. Nate Boyer, though, said, you know what, hold my beer, because he walked on to the University of Texas despite never playing a down of organized football in his life. He earned a scholarship and started for 3 years with the Longhorns, Hook 'em, which of course makes Dave Harrison very happy, and he became the oldest rookie in NFL history while playing for the Seattle Seahawks at age 34. You might have seen him actually in 12 Strong, Den of Thieves, Medal of Honor, This Is Us, plenty of other films to kind of mention. There's so much to talk about, and I can just simply say, rather than giving him a title, Nate Boyer has arrived on the scene at Road Gang Radio, and we are delighted and proud to have him. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning to you. Appreciate the intro. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. So MVP also stands for Merging Vets and Players. Let's just kind of begin there, and we'll work your bio in over the course, because it has so much of an influence on what you're doing now is based on who you were and still are. So tell us about MVP first.
Yeah. So essentially what we do at Merging Vets and Players is bring together veterans and athletes and help them find purpose and identity again when they lose or after they lose the uniform. You know, I'm myself was in the Army, as you said, for roughly 10 years and fortunate to spend that time with the Special Forces. So it was a, you know, pretty high octane life, a lot of challenge, a lot of structure, but also you got to think outside the box and you got to be on your toes and a lot of responsibility, and you gotta love what you do at some level, and then you got that brotherhood and the camaraderie and the things you become accustomed to that you think is just sort of normal. You know, you start that at a young age, and then you sort of age out at a fairly young age as well. And then I transitioned into going to college and walking on to a college football team, and eventually getting a shot even up at the next level with the Seahawks for a brief time. And not realizing how similar they were until I was in the other one, until I was in the football locker room. And then, you know, feeling that same sort of identity with a uniform and connection to something important and that sense of purpose. And then when I got cut, not having the locker room all of a sudden, not having a jersey or camouflage, something that I was just identified as by the public, but also something that I kind of unintentionally, I guess, identified myself as, not realizing that. And then, you know, I was 34, still felt like I had a lot in the tank, and you know, if I'm a healthy person, got a lot of life left. But feeling like you've peaked and you'll never be great again was a very similar thing. So, like, look, we would never compare war to sports, battlefield, ball field, completely different places, but so many similarities, parallels really in the life of a professional athlete and a veteran. So we ended up deciding to start this organization partly out of a personal need. Co-founded it with Jay Glazer, who's a Fox NFL Sunday football analyst, and you know, not a player himself, but been around, worked with so many athletes, so many coaches, and kind of seen that on the sports side, and knew that I was kind of struggling in a similar way. So it was a need, but also just recognizing how many others must deal with this, struggle with the transition. So that's why we formed MVP, to kind of help both those groups, both those populations walk the walk together.
You know, one of the really great things is you talk about the idea of merging. And I've always told people, when you have the thought, this is just like, that is the beginning of the merge process. The idea that you're sitting someplace and you feel out of place, and then a pattern emerges in front of you where you can look at it and go, oh, wait, I've been here before. It just had different costumes and different surrounding noises. I actually know how to fit into the rhythm of that. And from what I understand, and you've already articulated this to some degree, what it seems you guys are hoping to do is to help people recognize those patterns so that they can recognize as the places that they will fit into comfortably when they are moving from military life into civilian life or changing careers after having left the military service. The idea that, that's a big thing too, because you quickly acclimated to sports, both collegiate and professional sports, so there was a connective tissue, a merging that went on there. It seems that the whole process is to help people recognize those patterns, whereas you recognize them in retrospect. Is there part of a training here that kind of says, here's what you want to look for that will play into your wheelhouse and maybe help you find the right landing spot to live a purpose-driven life? How'd I do?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, mergers and acquisitions occur,
Yeah.
I think, for that reason. You know what I mean? Like a company's like, okay, well, we're doing these things, similar goal maybe, similar outcome. This company's maybe doing it a little bit different, but it aligns, and we'll be stronger if we bring these two companies together, and essentially merge. But yeah, so you nailed it, definitely nailed it there. And the way that we're doing it is sort of individual led. It's peer to peer. Some would call it counseling, some would call it camaraderie, some would call it networking. Really just rebuilding that locker room, but through the players and the veterans, kind of leading that charge. So we'll meet up in the gym at our chapters around the country every week, right? Because that's a familiar place to both those worlds. Physical training was a big part of what we did. And we'll work out for 30, 45 minutes, something that's led by a trainer where, you really just have to show up and follow orders and put in some effort, and you're going to be just fine. It's not, we're not trying to break anybody off here. But it's meant to kind of open everybody up and make the world we're walking into a little more vulnerable. Because even if you don't know people in a group, you go through something together. For anybody that's ever, on a bigger scale, run a marathon, right? You run a marathon, you're out there with a bunch of strangers, thousands of strangers, but you feel really connected to them because you're all going through this together. You cross that finish line, you're hugging some random person, because you did it together, even though you maybe never spoke a word. And that's the similar kind of bond we create, right, by the workout. And then we'll transition into the huddle where we, sit on a mat, often a wrestling mat or just the gym floor, whatever it is, and in a somewhat of a circle or a gaggle or whatever you want to call it. And it's an opportunity for us to talk about something we maybe got going on with our life, something that it could be good stuff. It could be wanting to be held accountable. It could be something you've been walking around with, holding on for 10 minutes or 10 years. It could be anything. And you kind of understand that the rest of the people in that group, in that circle, are probably going to be able to relate maybe more than others, maybe even more than some of your own family, just because they wore a similar uniform. They went through the crucible as well. They made those sacrifices, even though they're different sacrifices, to become elite. And it's a way to help us kind of reintegrate to society. So some of those people just got out or not even out yet of the military or sports, which is a good place to start always. And some of those people hadn't really faced that transition yet, haven't been willing to take that step because of, fear or just sort of, I think often just feeling like, I'm just going to accept the fact that people in the outside world aren't going to get me, and I'm just not going to relate to them. So I'm just not even going to really try to move on. I'm just going to kind of stuff that stuff away and not unpack it like we all should when we come home from a long journey. So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing. That's how it essentially works. And it can be various ways to tackle that and attack that. But that's the consistent, the huddles, the workouts every week in the chapters that we do have. And we have a virtual chapter as well. That's the consistent showing up for one another that we display, I guess.
You work in a lot of creative entrepreneurial environments, and one of the things a
Yeah.
lot of people don't understand about that, that in order to kind of create a movie, and even writing a book, I tell people all the time, if you think that is a solo action, you have never met an editor, you have never met somebody who actually lays a book out, all of that kind of work that we're kind of talking about here. So much
Right.
of what you do is based on understanding that collaboration is an invitation. And it sounds like with the huddle
Mm.
and all that work you guys are doing, that you're also teaching men and women to understand that sometimes being invited isn't somebody directly looking at you and saying, we want you. That sometimes groups and organizations create an atmosphere of invitation that isn't spoken. And it almost seems like one of the other patterns you're kind of looking for is to teach these people there's a space open for you. You've just got to take the initiative and understand that it's been open for you, and you've got to move in there and not just kind of go sulk off in a corner because you've been kind of, I guess, disoriented and displaced by your change of environments. Once again, I have to ask: am I making sense here?
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's again. I think you did nail it. And collaboration is everything. That's something that I preach, and it's tough for these populations, for the vets and athletes. It often is tough, even though we're accustomed to working with teams. Sometimes, we think we know best because we have seen a lot, experienced a lot, and it's hard to let go of the reins, let go of control, try somebody else's way. You know what I mean? Like we do get rigid. We do get kind of set in our own ways, and it's important to do though. Like, yeah, you were just talking about like making a film. Oh my gosh, I've had the pleasure of the honor, I guess, an opportunity to direct a film, and now I'm working on my second film, which I'm actually co-directing, ironically enough, because there is more power in that often. And even when you're directing a film, and yes, you are the decision maker, you're the general sort of the head coach or quarterback or whatever you want to call it of the project. If you think that your idea and vision, just because it resonates with you the most in that moment, is the not only way, but the best way of skinning this cat, whatever that cat may be. At least with me, I'm often wrong. I'm no Quentin Tarantino. I'll say that. I just I've gotten so much value out of not only asking, but opening the doors for other voices and for people to kind of help me along the way. And then without even, beyond that, you've got all these different departments that are working in tandem, doing something at the same time that you're doing. There's no way you could do all of those things anyway. So you have to trust, you have to let go. And then also, like, understand even if you have this very specific experience, and you've done it before, and you've done it for years, like, it doesn't always mean it's the best way. Companies, brands, organizations, they all grow and develop often in a more efficient and modern way because they listen to those younger voices with less experience who think about things outside the box, who haven't necessarily, put all the time in and become so institutionalized as you have. Same with the military as well. And even with sports, look at these young head coaches come into the NFL early 30s and winning Super Bowls. Like, there's something to that. So I think that collaboration is crucial in doing anything well, especially creative endeavors.
I wanted to kind of, on a personal level, by the way, as a person who actually lived in Seattle for 2 years and was a season ticket
Yeah.
holder for those great Ichiro Suzuki teams of the early aughts, where Jamie Moore decided to have Fantasy Island season part 2 and 3. You actually have done a great documentary, 20K, about the 4 pitchers in Major League history to actually throw 20 strikeout games. And I kept thinking about the perfect game scenario, too. There's a wonderful video I've once seen called The Play in the Perfect Game, where there's always one play where somebody on the field makes a remarkable play to save it. Mark Burley's, in particular, Dwayne Wise's amazing catch at the wall in the 9th inning to preserve the perfect game. even in a situation, it seems funny to me that you look at things in a very different way. Even in the 20K game, where it really is one pitcher mowing down 20 folks, you never seem to forget that there are other people that go into those worlds. The idea that the scouting teams and the catcher who calls the game and all of those kind of things, there seems to be a focus that even when there's only one person at the center of everything, doing everything, the people who succeed the most are aware of all the people that have put them in a position to succeed. And that seems to be the self-awareness that kind of ripples through your work, that I might be a hero, I might be a man or a woman of the moment, but that there are other people who have put me in a position to kind of make this work. How do you communicate that to people who are consistently working by themselves or working in a way where they think they're isolated and alone?
Yeah, I mean yeah, that's a good one. That's a good analogy too. Because yeah, even in a 20 strikeout game scenario, which is extremely rare, one of the rarest feats in sports. It's only happened 5 times, and four people have done that, and they're all, yes, they were amazing pitchers, phenoms even. But in the case of maybe the least famous of the 5 or the 4 pitchers, Kerry Wood, who was a Chicago Cub. He did it at 20 years old in his 5th career start. Before getting injured and not necessarily having a career he may have had otherwise. That was a game where he not only threw 20 strikeouts, he only gave up 1 hit. He didn't walk anybody, as none of the other pitchers did, which is an ironic and interesting stat for a 20 strikeout game. So, of course, their precision was on that day. There was something different. But at the same time, when you've got base runners on in baseball, you're pitching different. You don't have the same freedom. So the situation does dictate. There were players in the field that made plays to get other outs that affected the way that was able to continue. And for those that aren't necessarily part of the team or don't feel that and maybe feel siloed out there, I think at the end of the day, at some point, you will be collaborating, whether it's interfacing face to face or passing your piece off to somebody else and all that. And you just have to understand that you aren't alone. And that's a big message I think for the vets and athletes and potential MVP members as well. Like, no matter where you're at in your journey, you may feel very siloed and alone right now, and like you don't have a team, and maybe you can't see. All you can see is your piece of the pie and what you're working on, and you're not able to see, sort of the bigger picture, the broader scope, or the potential for what this thing can be. I think it's important to just continue on your path, keep working towards that thing that you care about, that you love, that you're passionate about. But also, like, be prepared to and start taking those steps towards more collaboration, towards, maybe it's sharing whatever you're working on with somebody else that you trust. Not that you trust is going to give you just overwhelmingly positive feedback no matter what, because they're a good friend or a good family member, but someone who's going to be brutally honest with you and give their opinions and thoughts, and start that collaboration process in that way. But I mean, yeah, it's easy to feel alone. I think even especially since COVID, things have changed quite a bit in our world, where you can do everything digitally in a sense. You can have all your meetings digitally. You don't have to get out there and kind of be with other people, which of course there's benefits to, but I also think there's dangers in, and for a group like MVP, for what we're trying to do. Look, COVID was honestly the reason we ended up making the MVP movie. It's a scripted movie. It was something that I had co-written, and the script wasn't quite there, but I don't know if it ever would have gotten made, or at least as quick as it did, without COVID. And not that I'm grateful for it, but because everything was shut down, because we couldn't go to the gym and meet up, because all of a sudden we transitioned to Zoom and we're doing all of our huddles virtually, there was like sort of after a period of time, a group of people within our organization that really wanted to do something together creatively, and so we decided to make this film, and we brought these people together. Some of them had never worked on a movie before. Some of them had limited experience. Some of them had a lot of experience, and we sort of just did it together, figured it out together, started down the path, and just did it. I mean, I guess it was that simple. And it was really refreshing and healthy. And I think, and not that it wasn't challenging, but really opened up all of our eyes to the possibility again of like what we're capable of. I think reminding us what we're capable of if we just, take that chance and start working on something as a team, and reach out to others for help and not be afraid to, to just, I guess, hang it all out on the line once again, like something that we were used to doing in the sports or in the military. And yeah, I mean, it's like anything is possible. And sometimes you need a little push by the circumstances that you're in. Maybe you need to get back in a corner once in a while to be able to come out of your shell. So anyway, I sort of answered your question, but
you did just fine. You did fine, by the way. My producer and I have just been sitting here listening and enjoying Nate Boyer. Of course, I want you guys to go to vetsandplayers.org. There's two other things I want to kind of bring up here for fun. 8 Primal, that is the number 8primal.com. Tell people what they'll find if they go there. This is groovy.
Oh yes, I appreciate that. Talk about stepping into unknown territory and collaboration. 8primal.com is it's a meat company. So there's 8 primal cuts on a head of cattle, right? That we typically will grill, will eat. And look, I'm not the kind of guy. I've never been the kind of guy. I wish I was that cool. That would go to the butcher shop and know what's good. Know exactly what I want to get. I mean, I'm kind of just hoping to let them sort of guide me and knowing and researching a bit about sort of the unknowns when you go to the grocery store, as far as, getting your meat, like where is it from? Is it actually clean? Is your, and it's not just beef, we have pork and chicken as well, but I'm focused mostly on beef because that's where we started. Like, where is that cow from? And, is it actually hormone free, no preservatives? Is it actually grass fed? Like, what's there's so many things that unfortunately we can get away with these days in labels. People can relate to that when they go to the store and buy eggs, and they've got all these different, it's cage free, it's free range. What does it all mean? Like, how do I actually know? So I had the opportunity to meet, a couple of family farms out in Texas and go out there and see what it looks like and visit it and watch when a smaller operation like that does it right, where a place where, the animals are born, bred, and eventually, butchered and packed and shipped from one location, from one place, and not being passed around to all these other spots and kind of boxed into these small spaces, and, seeing what the way that it was probably intended, whether you're a religious person or not. But also where, you get a sense that, okay, these animals are at least living their life, and I'm so grateful that I get to, that they get to nourish me, right? But also like just that understanding, that knowing, and not having to like just kind of turn a blind eye or just hope that whatever I'm consuming, is ethical.
Faith, hope in the meat locker. Faith, hope in the meat locker is just not a good way of kind of going about business. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, if you are hungry right now and aren't planning on eating for the next couple of hours, please don't go to 8primal.com. There's some great video footage, by the way, of them prepping steaks on there as well. Nate, I want to make sure we cover a lot of stuff here before we run out of time, because I wanted to do a deep dive about what it is. But you guys have some golf tournaments, too, for MVP that people might want to get involved in and might enjoy the camaraderie. Go to MVPGolfClassic.com. Tell people about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We are doing some tournaments kind of all over the country. We just had our first one up in Seattle, actually, a few weeks ago. We've got another one October 14th, and then again November 10th. Both of those are in Austin, different parts of Austin. Essentially, it's vets, it's athletes and we're fundraising for emerging vets and players by playing golf. But it's open to the community, and we'd love that community support and anybody that's interested in playing or sponsoring or even sponsoring a veteran. If you can't come out and play, paying for one of them to play that maybe wouldn't have been able to afford otherwise and would like to get out there. It's a good way to kind of help start that MVP process as well. Like it's not always easy to get people off the couch and out of their dark places to come to a huddle, because it's a little bit intimidating. Maybe, they're just like, oh, I don't want to go to this group where people are going to talk about serious stuff. And it's like, okay, maybe you don't right now, but let's go out and play golf. You know what I mean? Let's go out and just like kind of get back out there in the community and do something social and a bit physical in nature. So this is a way of starting to do that. But yeah, you said it, MVPGolfClassic.com. We've got more tournaments that'll be popping up all over the country. And if you're interested in helping host one, you can reach out and we can talk through that as well.
Really quickly, before we kind of wrap this up here, Nate also hosted the Discovery Channel series Survive the Raft, and is currently producing and directing a highly anticipated World War II feature documentary based on a soldier's journey to Normandy 80 years after D-Day. Do me a favor, the next time you come down to New Orleans, let us know. Brad Bentley and I would love to take you down to the World War II Museum. Finally, just to kind of put a bow on this, talk about the Army-Navy game. You guys do some tailgating, do you not?
We do. And real quick, I think we've got an event lined up November 19th with the Saints in New Orleans. I think we're going to do an MVP pop-up down there. So we need to talk about that. Not right now necessarily, but maybe offline, because it's coming up. That's just a little over a month away. So we will be doing that, and we'd love to. That museum is incredible, that World War II museum. So I'm working on a D-Day 80th anniversary documentary right now. We're in post-production on it. Got to go out to Normandy for the 80th anniversary and start interviewing these heroes that are over 100 years old. So some incredible stories there, and some of them had never told their story. Some of them is really speaking those words maybe for the last time. In Baltimore in December 13th, the Army-Navy game. This is the 250th celebration of our military, has been this year. July 4th next year will be America 250. It's obviously not the 250th Army-Navy football game, but it's an important year for all that. And MVP is hosting a tailgate out there at Game Day Firehouse. So on our website, vetsandplayers.org, you can find so many of our events, and you'll be able to find the Army-Navy tailgate as well. So we'd love to have people out to that, whether you're out there for the game or you're in the area and you're not going to the game even. It'll be out in Baltimore at Game Day Firehouse. It's this old firehouse that's now an event space, still run by these local firefighters across the street from the Raven Stadium there. So all those things will be great. But yeah, you can track that stuff on vetsandplayers.org and or I'm on social media at Nate Boyer 37. You're able to look at all the things we have coming up. We'd love the community to be a part of that.
By the way, my father has basically turned his health around. He's 83 years old and actually moving again. He actually went to 4 Army-Navy games when he was at the Pentagon during the Vietnam War. So maybe I'll get him to get his butt off the couch and make his way over to the firehouse, man. Nate, I know you got a busy schedule. I'm going to let you get out of here. Best of days, and thank you for making the time for our friends at the Road Gang. Thank you, sir.
Of course. No, thank you guys. Really appreciate you having me.